Welcome back to Screenfish Radio. I am so excited to be chatting this week about Avatar: Fire and Ash, the latest installment and last question mark installment in James Cameron's mega franchise. And I am really thrilled to have back the team from GeekCentric. Maybe you guys can slate your name and tell me.
Slate your name and outlet, and we can begin.
And you can
Justin
begin.
Lawrence. Justin Lawrence from GeekCentric.
I'm Nate from GeekCentric, Nate Shelton. Dude, thank you so much for having us back on again.
Yeah,
This
man.
is this is great. This is really fun.
Yeah.
I
It's
think
like
this.
what? It's twice in 1 week.
Yeah.
So, it's
Yeah,
good.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. That means that you enjoyed it enough to stick around. So I appreciate that.
This is it, though. After this,
That's
I don't
right.
know.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know if you can afford us after this.
Yeah, exactly. I
We'll see.
That's
We'll
fair. That's fair.
don't know.
Avatar: Fire and Ash is set several weeks after the events of The Way of Water and finds the Sully clan overcome with sadness after the death of their eldest son, Neteyam. As they struggle to get through the day, they find themselves once again in the relentless crosshairs of Miles Quaritch, and this time he's not alone. Partnering with a new aggressive Na'vi tribe, the Mangkwan clan, the Quaritch refuses to accept that Jake slipped through his fingers yet again, and together they unleash a full-on assault to find his nemesis. As always, this podcast is rated S for spoilers, but Justin, Nate, what did you think of Avatar: Fire and Ash?
Well, after having seen it so long ago, it's been, I think it's been
Fair.
just, no, it's been what? Probably a month since I've seen it, realistically. Probably longer, actually. It still has stuck with me though. Like
Mhm.
there are moments in this movie that are, that can only be experienced in the theater. And it is classic James Cameron spectacle at its best. But it's almost like a two sides of one coin. So you got the spectacle side, you got that theater experience. But then on the other side, you have the story, which I think this film very much struggled with, is really finding the story. It had everything nailed from a visual standpoint. But for me personally, I think the story, I was left wanting more narratively from Avatar Fire and Ash.
Yeah, I completely agree with all of that, Justin. I think the big thing with this movie, you talked about like moments that you'll remember. Who won't remember, flying on the back of an Ikron, swooping into the frame on a beautiful IMAX screen, the sound,
Mhm.
the visuals, and of course, but then, how can I forget the constant changing frame rate and the things
Mhm.
that took me out of those moments? So for as much as this movie thrust me back into this world that I love and these characters that I love, it felt like the entire time that this movie was also fighting me on the other side with some of the dialogue choices and just some of the decisions made from a narrative standpoint and from a technical standpoint. And so I think it's one of those things that, yeah, I remember the good stuff, I remember the bad stuff. Years from now, maybe through after a few rewatches at some point, maybe I'll just choose to remember the good stuff, and maybe
Yeah.
I'll find a way to watch this movie without a constant shifting frame rate and enjoy it even more, right? And in the
Mhm.
context of maybe what is to come in the future. But as far as it stands right now, there was a lot to love and a lot
Yeah.
to be disappointed by.
I, I will say the frame rates didn't bother me as much as they did in the first film.
Okay.
But that said, like, because I think it was better used here. It definitely was jarring at times, for sure. But I don't think it took me out as much as I had thought. Maybe because I had already seen it and I already knew that was like to be expected. Because I think you hadn't seen it originally, the first, The Way of Water, in the high frame rate. Is that right, Nate?
No, yes, that is correct. Yeah, this was
Yeah.
my first experience with the high frame rate.
Right, exactly. So
Because I didn't
it
go to
was
see it
definitely
in,
jarring.
yeah, I did not see it
Yeah.
in theaters with Way of Water. But Steve,
Yeah.
what did you think?
I was surprised by it, and I have such a fascinating, or well, I can say it's fascinating. It is fascinating. No, I have such
So
a
fascinating.
interest. Yeah, I'm like putting myself over. I'm like, my opinion is really fascinating,
Dude, I
guys.
agree.
Thank you. I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
No, but I have such a fascinating relationship to me with these films. because I remember like with the first one, the movie was the highest grossing film ever made. And for the life of me, I couldn't tell you anybody from it. I was like,
Hmm.
when Endgame came out, everybody remembered everything about it.
Mm.
But I couldn't believe that 10 years after Avatar came out, I couldn't, like, I went back and I remember it. I liked it. But at the time, I remember being totally engrossed in it. And I just felt like, how did a movie make $2.5 billion and I don't remember it?
Hmm.
Um, and I feel like this one, for the first time, I actually cared about the characters. I could remember their
Mhm.
names.
That's good.
Uh,
That's important.
no, but honestly, it's because
Yeah.
even with Way of Water, like I was like, oh, I just want to sit under the sea again with the elus or whatever they are, and just watch this thing happen. And I do think this one, the thing that I struggled with, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, was $2 billion. My thoughts on this film was that there were story elements that I actually quite appreciated that they fleshed out. They answered a bunch of questions that they laid out in the second film. It felt like it had an arc, and it felt like the third act to me was really rushed. And my only justification for that, for a guy who says he has four and five written out, is that he had to wrap it up because he didn't know if he was going to make four.
Mm.
And that was the way I felt. As I was like, I was actually really into it more than I expected. People said that they liked the vid. I or people and I were talking. My goodness, it's late. I was talking. When I was talking with people, the thoughts were that, and I agreed with this, that the second one had better visuals. I just thought the visuals were more peaceful. Like it's hard to stare at fire and ash and feel like, you're having a good time,
Hmm.
to
Yeah.
me. But I actually was more into the story this time than I was the last time, and I'm a little surprised that everybody says it's the same story, although there were certainly similar beats.
Hmm. Yeah,
Similar
it's
beats.
structured the same way. I agree, and we talked about how the ending climactic, final battle felt like a replica of what we got in the Way of Water. And uh, um, you know, you were talking about the visual effects and how much I think you were saying it was better, right, in this one than it was in Way
No,
of
I like
Water.
the visuals last in the second one better, but
Oh,
that's because
right.
I enjoyed being in the water more than I did
Sure.
around the fire and ash people, even
Right.
though I thought they were better
Well,
characters.
well,
So you
we were
liked what you
talking.
saw more then, I
Yeah.
guess, is
In
really.
the second one, I liked what I
Yeah.
saw more. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you like
Mm.
that world a lot more. We were talking about this with our people as well, our friends,
All of our
and
Well,
people.
people
all of
say
our
a
Listen,
people.
lot.
from the GeekCentric, clan we were talking about.
Yeah, no, we were
Yeah.
talking with some of our other peers, and that
Oh, even
we
beyond
were,
that. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, within the after the screening. And one thing we talked about is how the distance between Avatar 1 and The Way of Water, the visual effects, the spectacle was so elevated, right? Because it was what, 13 years. It was like a
Yeah.
legacy sequel, that is, to a certain degree. And then the distance between, obviously, The Way of Water and Fire and Ash, it's not as large. Therefore, the visual effects feel a lot more like feel similar, but more refined, right? Like even when speaking with James, in him talking about the idea of building refinement and cleaning things up and building more of an aesthetic. And he said, like, from the first one to the second one was a huge refinement, and then from The Way of Water to here to Fire and Ash, it was smaller, right? And it wasn't as it was already built in to the Way of Water. So I think you're right. The visual effects, maybe with the details that they were leaning into more in The Way of Water, stood out as being monumentous. And now here we are in Fire and Ash, and we didn't really spend that much time in Fire and Ash, though, right? Like,
This is, and I
we
wanted to,
didn't.
That's
if
true.
I could jump in on that as well. Like, I think to your point, Steve, about Way of Water, the Metcalina people, we got to explore thoroughly.
Hmm.
Maybe even a little bit too much in Way of Water, but we thoroughly explored their culture, their people,
It was a deep dive.
and yeah, and
I see
here
what you did there.
a deep dive. But here with the Mangkwan clan, the Ash people, it it just felt like in a movie called Avatar: Fire and Ash, we would have got more of that. And I thought their land
Hmm.
looked so intriguing. This idea of their land was taken away from them. What a
Hmm.
phenomenal way
Yeah.
to build between between Una Chaplin's character of why am I blanking? Varang, right? And Natiri. Like
Yeah.
these two
Mm,
powerful leaders of their
very true.
respective tribes.
Hmm.
What a wonderful opportunity that would have been to say,
Yeah.
yeah, your world was ruined, my world was ruined, and to
Mm,
kind of build something there. But they didn't take time to explore that. But from a character standpoint, they didn't take time to explore it from a culture standpoint of the Ash people. We got so little of the the Fire and Ash in Fire and
yeah.
Ash. We got
They
more
were just,
water,
yeah. They were
and
just
so
villainized, right?
yeah, and so
Immediately.
like I
Yeah.
love this world and I love the visuals in this world. And I love, I love the world of Pandora at the Disney parks, like just exploring it and learning more and seeing the sky. I get this wrong every single time. The Sky Traders, I think is what they're called.
Oh yeah.
Right, and getting to see them and getting to sort of just kind of flesh out more of Pandora. But
Yeah.
then again, the movie just goes right back to all the human beings on the military base camps, and I don't care about that stuff. I want to see Fire and Ash. I want to see the different tribes. I want to see more of
Well,
Pandora.
look, we're not
And
going to get rid of.
personally,
We
I
weren't.
think
They were
we
never.
could get rid of the humans. We could get rid of all of them.
I don't think
It would be
realistically they could.
better.
They were there. I agree. It could have been better if it was more focused. But
Yeah,
I liked this whole idea of course trying to find an alliance and
yeah.
like building, like giving them the means to fight a war against that. But I do think that we should have spent more time from the perspective of Rang and understanding, like you were saying, that parallel between Natiri. And I think there's just so much that was unexplored there. And this is kind of like, I love James Cameron. Obviously, he's one of the greatest of all time when it comes to filmmaking. And it's because he's at this intersecting point of being an artist and like an engineer, like arts and science, right? It's just like it's that he's so passionate about the idea of how we experience storytelling and what he's done with these films and with the technology that he's built and the approach to telling the story. But you can tell that at times that drove these films rather than maybe narrative choices that could have helped to kind of, as Nate was saying, flesh out this world that much more, give us more perspective from other tribes and other clans through on Pandora that have different perspectives. Like it would have been better to have that, I feel, to really hone in on this dichotomy between these two clans and what they're fighting for.
Yeah, now see. I got the sense too, though, that that's where we go in the future. Like if they're assuming they go in the future, I think Varang and the Meti are they the Metikaya? No, that's
Varang, the Mangkwan.
the Mangkwan
Hmm.
tribe. Like I feel like absolutely there's something to explore there.
Hmm.
But is that
And
movie going to be called Avatar: Earth and Thunder? And it's
Love and
about the
Thunder.
Earth, Love and Thunder, but
Avatar, Love and
it's
Thunder.
what I mean. But it's about the Earth people, and then we get to see them for 2 seconds, but we'll explore them in the fifth. You know what I mean? Like we're at the third movie technically in this trilogy, the second
and
Legacy sequel, and it's like.
yeah,
I just felt like there
and
was such an opportunity based on some of the marketing and just based on how they felt like they were setting things up,
Yeah.
and they just kind of redid a lot of the stuff and it's just
yeah, and it
I
didn't.
wanted more.
And I feel like at the same time, it's like I totally agree with you. I think that Steve, that this idea of wanting to bring closure to this trilogy in case you can't go forward and you can't make 4 and 5, and that's a big question mark. I think this film is already grossed what it needs to a certain degree, but if they decide to do an Avatar 4 and 5. But that said, like this movie didn't feel like a closure in any means. It felt like it left things more open and not like, if this really was a closure, then we should have, I don't know, Quaritch dying really felt ambiguous. The guy is like a cat. They all look like cats, so they got like 9 lives. So like at the end of the day, it's like he's probably coming back, and you can't like he was the most interesting part of the movie
I
in my
agree.
mind. And when you talk about characters, like he shows the most intrigue in terms of someone who's being reshaped by actually having to live as a Navi.
Nevi.
Nebby.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, it's interesting because um, there were two things that I expected would happen. I was talking with this again with Nick over at Bite Size Breakdown. We both said we expected Quaritch to turn and we expected Jake to die. We didn't get either of those. And
Mhm.
and Quaritch's journey, like I feel like he's going somewhere. But see, this
It would have
is
been nuts. It would have been nuts though, just to not to cut you
no,
off,
no,
but
go
it would
ahead.
have been nuts if Jake died and then Quaritch was the one that decided to continue the fight that Jake sacrificed. That's fucking epic. I'm sorry for
Yeah.
swearing on this, but that's epic. That would have been wild.
But see, this is what I mean. Like that, I thought I actually felt like they were really going somewhere, and that's why I think the ending just felt like it wrapped up too. I can't believe I'm saying this too quickly.
For a
Um,
3.5 hour
for a three
movie.
and a half hour movie. I think that was the one thing I said in my review is I'm like I wanted it to be longer, and I've never said that about a film like this before because I was like,
Yeah.
now it could be I think Justin, I think it was you saying it didn't feel like the end. It doesn't feel it feels like it could be the end,
Mhm.
but I don't think it obviously it doesn't. But that's what I said about that final that third act. It was like, oh, okay, so Awa's gonna show up and we're gonna get the final battle with Quaritch, which is obviously not, but then he dies, and I'm using air quotes for all of this. But it was just like, oh, let's just to tie up every loose end just tightly enough that we can say that we're done. And I was like, but see, this is what I'm saying. This is the first time I've actually cared about these character journeys.
Mhm.
And that surprised me because and I do stand by this. I do stand by the fact that I said the Avatar films in general and this film, I know there's the high frame rate conversation and whatnot, but like these are like cinema events. And they're like this
Yeah.
is one of those things that was like I don't want anybody to watch this for the first time. I'm showing my hand here
Well, that's
on
yeah.
Disney Plus. Like that's not the
Yes.
way to watch these films. You care
No.
less about them.
Right. And that's going on the point of what Nate was saying in regards to like, watching it again. I think the only way to watch this again is in theaters, which is why people are, seeing it like 3 or 4 times for the sake of it. And that's the one side of the coin. It's that spectacle. It's that the visuals are just incredibly like well done. And I think the scale and scope of are massive and what you would expect. And it has James Cameron's hand all over it, right? Like he just he cares so much about it being immersive, it being a complete experience, but it just feels like that's the focus of these films. That
Right.
is the focus of these films because at the end of the day, Avatar just feels like a series that is going to be remembered for that, for its world building, its visual immersion, more than its storytelling, in my opinion. I think people will remember aspects of it and cool moments. But for me, I don't celebrate these movies based on the story. I celebrate them based on exactly as we've talked about having to see them in the theater and creating those events for the movie going experience.
But is there anything wrong with that? Like, is there anything wrong with that? Like, I agree with you. Like I said, the first two films, I couldn't tell you what happened until I rewatched them. I was like, oh, his name's Jake.
Mm,
I just remembered the blue guy. But
mm,
I agree. I think these are like built for cinema,
mm,
built for experience, built for different types of cinema. Go to your 4DX, go to your 3D, go to your IMAX, see in different ways. But is there anything wrong with the legacy of these films being visual?
I mean, I think they're a they're a ride for sure,
Yeah.
right? They're movies that you don't just watch, you experience. You go on this journey. But I think it's going to be interesting rewatching it and seeing it again. I think it's I agree with you. I think there's a world in which that absolutely can exist and does exist. But I also think Zoe Saldana did such a phenomenal job as Neytiri in this movie that
Hmm.
her performance,
Hmm.
it's almost like there are parts of watching this movie and this franchise where I'm like, there are things that are too good for this story. Do you know what I mean? Like her performance is too good for
Yeah.
this story. There are some moments that, granted, yes, have to do with the writing, but also have to do with her performance.
Hmm.
Varang, Una Chaplin's physicality in this movie is
Insane.
stunning. It's
Yeah.
stellar. And you know what? I really enjoyed Loak in this movie as well, even though there was a lot of dialogue of like, "Yo, what's up, bro, cuz," and all of this garbage. But to me, it's going to come back to yes, beautiful visuals, beautiful world, amazing performances, lovely music, going on a ride, maybe seeing it on a small screen. I would hope that it wouldn't emphasize, but maybe it'll emphasize the idea of like, well, why did we choose to abandon Loak in turn for Spider? Like,
Hmm.
why is Spider the main and most important
But
thing when
again,
Loak was like the driving force at the beginning of the movie? Like,
yeah.
it felt like we sort of left
Mm.
him behind and didn't necessarily wrap up his story. And I understand what you're saying, Steve. Like, we're gonna get more of these movies, or the intention is to get more of these movies, but I don't. I just felt like this could have been such a wonderful capped off trilogy. And if we choose to go forward, then it's going to be something completely different. And we didn't really get that. I don't know.
No. And I think to your question, Steve, like there's nothing wrong with a movie being remembered for its visual and not for its story and for the theater going experience. I think in a lot of ways James Cameron's career has mostly been built off of that. Do you know what I mean? He's had some obviously some really strong stories, but it's always about that theater experience, that idea of going and seeing his movies in theaters. And I think that's why he continues to push the boundaries and move things forward. And I hope he continues to do that. But outside of that, it's about remembering that experience. Do you know what I mean? Whereas like obviously there's films that we can remember and
Right.
appreciate for their narrative composition. And when we go back and we watch those films, whether it's on the big screen or the small screen, they still resonate. And I think that's the part. Like when you watch, like we are saying, if you watch Avatar on Disney Plus, there's a whole lot of that you're missing that was intentional for a theater. But now you get to sit with, as Nate's describing, with the more personal aspects of it, the performance, right, of these characters and how they interact, and living with the rough dialogue that in some of these movies was just so generic. But it can either help to have new appreciation for it, or it can help to really highlight, damn, this is just there's really no story. That's how I felt when I watched Avatar again, like the first Avatar.
Yeah.
Really, again, the visuals didn't necessarily, swell me as I felt in the theater when I watched it for the first time. Obviously, because I don't have the technology and the 3D capabilities to do so. Um, but there were certain aspects like Neytiri, like Zoe Saldana, really helping to define, the body movements and the sort of the physicality of the Navi in a way. And that's different, right? That's a different
Mm.
experience than what I had probably in the moment of watching that movie, of just being like, wow, this is incredibly insane how 3D this is.
Well, and like we talked on the podcast on the review about the dialogue at times feeling like it was part of a Fast and Furious movie. And it's like
Yeah.
that shouldn't be part of this massive grand experience. And to your point, Steve, like I'm so excited to sit on the back of Necron, feel it breathing between my thighs
Oh
on
God.
Flight of Passage at Disney's Animal Kingdom in less than a week now. I cannot wait. I'm so excited. But that experience is not as long as an Avatar movie. Maybe lining up for it can be at times, but the actual sitting on the ride is not as long as an Avatar movie. And so for me, I understand what you're saying. Like, is there room for just that? And there is, but I think it's better in a 10 an 8 minute experience than it
Sure.
is over
Right.
the course of
Yeah.
3 hours.
No, I get
And
what
I,
you're
I
saying.
also think,
Yeah.
that he's not doing these with the intention of them being remembered for their story. Do you know what I mean? Like he's obviously
Mm.
paying attention to his story and wanting to make a point of it and like do something, but I don't know if he's personally, it feels like
You should have asked him.
That's a tough question to ask James Cameron. I was more like
Really?
blacking out in the moment.
Yeah.
Do you want us to remember these characters? No.
I think there's people that have asked him some hard questions
Some more
about his
hard hitting.
story
Yeah.
that and I think that are comfortable with doing that. I applaud those people because I would love to have that opportunity to feel that comfortable in a situation to maybe ask like a question that is very relevant in regards to like the narrative, but the angle in which I approach talking to him, which is the genuine appreciation for the technology that's being
Yeah.
leveraged in
In the
this, and
world.
his
Right.
approach.
Yeah.
Like the approach of filmmaking is insane. The fact
Yeah.
that he like the things that he has at his disposal, the tools that he's able to play with, moving the camera wherever he wants, switching it to a drone. They film the performative, then they do the animation. It's a two-layer composition. He has a whole bunch of different people that he's obviously working with in different teams. So he cares about this idea of not like filming live action, but creating the closest I got to asking him a hard question, which was, does he see himself can he do a live action film like a True Lies? I didn't say True Lies, but I asked him, could he ever, see himself doing a live action film after spending so much time building digitally? And he talked about how they still filmed live action, right?
Right.
He deviated from it and didn't talk about this idea of maybe, yeah, what if you reserved yourself for something that required less of that visual effects heavy stuff, but something that was more, True Lies. You know what I mean? I love True Lies, so I think that's a great film, right? Or Terminator, right? That still had the best of both worlds, right?
Yeah.
That's interesting you say that too. And this may be a hot take. Let's look at Titanic and T2.
Mm-hmm.
I would argue that when people think about T2, they don't talk about the story as much as they talk about the T1000 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But Titanic,
Mm-hmm.
it's all about the love story, which is
Mm-hmm.
interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Which the visuals are a massive part of that story, but people honed in on the relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And just going back, I think it was Nate something you said too about these moments that didn't pay off or something or felt incomplete. I don't want to take away from the fact that like there's a moment where a teenager puts a gun to his own mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
And
pretty intense.
it
That was
was
pretty intense.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like it happened. And this is where, that was because we were talking about Loak.
Hmm.
I do agree there. I'm like, this is what I mean. I'm like, I felt like I needed more time because he had legitimate stories for like five different people.
Mm-hmm.
And there were like three of them that didn't like Loak. I didn't care about the big whale this time. Like I didn't feel like we needed the redemption arc for the whale.
Yeah.
Um, I understand why, but I didn't feel like we needed it. But and this is where I would go to, Justin, you said you think maybe he's doing it for the visuals.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he is. Not on these ones. The one question I got him so excited was the idea that that this was really about love of nature. And I think that's what he cares about, the
Yeah.
spirituality of nature. I think that's what he wants people to remember about these films more
Yeah.
than the names of the characters, equally with the visuals. I would argue that that is his number one
That's
thing
fair.
because I
That's
think
fair. Yeah.
that's
I see that. I can see what you're saying
that
there. Yeah.
because I think yeah, like I mean, you don't need to know the name of Awa and all this stuff, but the idea that there's this connectedness with nature, I think that's what he cares about most. I don't know. What do you guys
Yeah.
think about that?
I do. Yeah.
I agree. I just think that then maybe make that a little clearer and
Yeah.
don't have things that are distracting like Sigourney Weaver playing a teenager and like
Yeah.
little like just some again great intentions.
Yes.
It's just some of these decisions that were made. The idea to have such a wonderful character, wonderful actress with Tuck, and what she has
Trinity
like
Bliss. Yeah.
two lines, I think in
Yeah.
The
We
Way
were
of Water,
talking
right?
about, yeah.
Or
We
in
were talking
Fire
about
and
that.
Ash. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. We were talking about like to have like again to have Sigourney in this is awesome. I love Sigourney Weaver, but does she need to be playing a teenager? Do you know what I mean? Like it could have been an actress like Trinity Bliss, who is that actor, and they've just modeled the design of
Hmm.
the character to look like Sigourney to help tell that side of the story. And Sigourney is a legacy character. She's clearly important. So she's obviously going to be making cameo appearances here and there, right? So there could have been a way to keep her around. But again, no shade to it, but I just feel like that could have been a better way to angle it. And the other thing too is that Trinity Bliss and Jack Champion are very close. Like they consider themselves siblings. So it would have been, I think, that dynamic and that comfort that they would have had
Hmm.
and you know what I mean, from their dad, because it does feel a little rigid at times when you're seeing, and we don't know if was it a Eric, was it someone else, or was it actually Sigourney and they just, they kept her height in relation. I don't know. Like she obviously did do a lot of the performance capture work for it, but how much at the same time we don't know all of that. So
And I love the idea that there's that connectivity. I love the idea of like I think that's it's beautiful to kind of showcase that and to showcase that within the Navi culture. But it again, like this is where there's moments where I can turn off my brain and fall in love with everything going on, and then there's moments where things start to creep in of like, well, at the beginning of the movie, he's talking to his brother. They can physically like hold each other. They can do all this stuff. And to me, that dampens some of the impact of like, but you can just see him whenever you want. Like, I understand he's dead, but if you want to plug your hair tail in, you could just go visit him. You can hang out. You can fly around. You can do whatever you want in heaven, essentially. And
mhm.
and so it's like those little decisions where I'm just like, I feel like you could have written so easily around that to just say like, no, it takes a vast amount of energy. You can do it once every 5 years or 10
Right.
years. And then, yeah, oh my gosh, that's horrible. You will only be able
Mhm.
to see your son every 10. But it's like, just plug right in. You're good to go. And so even to the idea of like Sigourney Weaver's character, it's like, you know
He
what?
just he just took all the suffering out of his grief. It's like, I mean, why are you complaining, man?
You're
Get
just
some
plug
people.
right in. You're good.
uh,
Again,
yeah.
I understand. I completely get it. I get that from the standpoint of like the rules that we live by, and
Mhm.
I like to see that represented in the movie. But it just feels like they're introducing rules, they're breaking rules, they're kind of just doing their own thing and making these decisions. And with somebody like Sigourney Weaver, we do see her, I believe, right in that
We
AWA
do.
world,
Yeah,
right? We
yeah.
see
Yeah,
her
yeah,
there.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so if
yeah.
she's in there
She's been
too,
welcomed. Yeah,
well, what a
yeah,
wonderful way to give audiences, instead of going back to the military base for the 900th time, maybe a scene that's involved with her in there, right?
yeah,
To learn more
yeah.
about that connection. How does that work? What is that all about? Like, there's just, again, I think the biggest thing, and this is something that we were talking to the Untitled Movie podcast folks, Matt and Eric, and they were really bringing to light the moment we got out of the theater is that these two movies were made at the same time, right? And so they're made at the same time. So much is going to overlap, and it's just you're gonna. It's I can't imagine it's an easy thing to do to make two massive films like this, and then even more difficult
But
not to have some of that writing bleed from one movie to another.
yeah, and that's it. I don't think it's from a just from a visual standpoint. I think it's obviously from a writing standpoint that you see that overlap and the sort of repetitiveness of like, here's the first battle now at the end of the second movie. Now here's the other battle that's at the end of the third movie, and there's a lot of similarities of how we get there, what's happening. People feel stuck. Characters feel stuck in certain aspects. You know what I mean? Even with like I think that like you were saying, like Jake and his grief really helped drive, we connected with that, especially in sort of juxtaposing that to how or paralleling that to Natiri and understanding that. But then we also have, there's so much grief that's felt here. Varang's dealing with her own grief, right? Like in her own way for her people and stuff like that. So it's a lot of different, as Nate's saying, like there's a lot of different things that are kind of layered here that we're kind of dealing with. And it's like, let's maybe we stick on a point of what we want to talk about. But I do think that a world like this that James Cameron's creating that's so detail oriented and so focused and is obviously so rich, it like he's thought of a lot of backstory to a lot of things. He's thought of a lot of things. I don't know if they're as fleshed out as they could be or should be. Do you know what I mean? Because for him, this is his Star Wars. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like he's compared this and talked about how Star Wars was a big influence on him wanting to do something like this eventually in his film career, and now he's doing it, right? So even with Star Wars, so much of that is built not just on just George Lucas, but the other people that contributed and gave more context to the world around it. Around
And
it.
shout out to DK Books and the
Yeah,
teams at Lucasfilm and the teams at with James Cameron's studio, like who are going in
Lightstorm. Yeah.
and right with Lightstorm, who are going in and writing the details for what is this bow, what is this deer
Mhm.
alien creature, right? Like those
Mhm.
DK visual dictionary books. I know
Mhm.
they're for kids. I buy them. I buy all of them. They're phenomenal because if you ever want to if you're just stuck thinking like, man, that little weasel thing in the background was so cool. I want to know more about it. Well, the only way to do that is through those books. And to your point, Justin, it's like, yeah, the world is so fleshed out. There's so much of it. I want more. Again, it's like, is this my favorite Avatar movie? Not at all. This is probably my least favorite of the Avatar movies personally. But do I would if you told me tomorrow there's a new one and it's 5 hours long, I would be there with bells on. I would want to see it.
Yeah.
I want to love so much of this world, and I do love so much of this world. You just need to make some better decisions from a story standpoint. Please.
It's funny, like you said that, and you were talking about Flights of Passage too, like the Navi River ride as
Oh my
well. You talk,
gosh, dude.
it's gorgeous, and you talk about those little details, those little aliens, those little things,
Yeah.
and it's a stinking boat ride in Disney World,
Yep.
and
Yeah,
you're
it's a river
watching,
ride. Yeah, it's a boat ride. Yeah.
it's a boat
Yeah.
ride,
Yeah.
and there's no waterfall at the end. It's not exciting. It's meant to be a
Mhm.
place of peace. And you
Yeah.
just look around and they'll be like the action will be over here. But if you look over here, you'll see little things moving. You'll see this little thing moving over there.
Little-
You feel immersed. Yeah,
Yeah.
like little things going over top of you.
Yeah.
And I agree 100% is like this is a world I want to keep existing. Like I want it to keep
Mhm.
going, not because I'm in love with the characters, but because I want it to keep being like
Mhm.
this immersive thing because it's there's just something about the experience of
Mhm.
Avatar, which even if it's better or worse than the one film or another, you keep going back. And that's
Yeah.
an interesting tension. I don't think I can say that about really any other franchise. Even Star Wars. I'm not going so I can sit in on Naboo. Like that's not why I'm going to the films.
Hmm.
Mhm.
But there's something different about these. I just don't understand the difference there, and it's a credit to the incredible work that he does.
Mhm.
Um, it's such a bizarre relationship, and that's why that with the stories.
Mhm.
I want to say, like I said, I really do think of this one. I was more interested in the characters. We talk about the grief.
Mhm.
Like I've heard it argued, and I like that each one of these characters is dealing with a different aspect of grief. So it'd be
Yeah,
like,
they are. Yeah.
anger, bargaining, like everybody is doing
Yeah.
something like I find that fascinating. And this
Yeah.
again, like I didn't get any of that in the other ones. I actually thought the second and the first one were very similar because it's very much like, hey, this is what life is like for these people, so let's become one of them and we'll
Hmm.
learn. And I was like, okay, so the second one's just the first movie but with water and it's gorgeous. Um but this is the first time I was like, I'm interested with these character arcs. But yes, it's a bit of a bumpy ride. I do
Mhm.
agree with that. But man, it's hard pressed for me to say that I want them to stop either. It's such a weird
Yeah,
thing.
I don't want them to stop either. I'm with you both. I would still go and see it. I would just hope that, and this is the thing about James is that I think he does listen to feedback to a certain degree. I think there's some things where he's probably just like, well, that's how I want to do it.
It's my
And he
movie.
should be like
Yeah.
that. It's he should. And that's totally fine.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing after Way of Water, they did like a screening with a variety of like press outlets and journalists and critics and stuff. And they all shared insight and thoughts about the film. And I think, for him to go out and do something like that, to like talk to critics and to hear thoughts and maybe things, it's putting yourself out there. It's being very vulnerable. But at the same time, you have to take that with a degree of like, well, what can I agree with and what can I? It's a back and forth sort of battle. But I do think that he is aware that maybe for the next films there could be more co-collaboration with
Mm.
it. Barry Hertz from the Globe and Mail actually asked him that question as part of his interview, where he had actually stated like he sees himself playing more of a producer role and behind the scenes, and there's other opportunities. And he says, how likely, Barry asked him, like, how likely is that going to happen? And he says, very likely. These movies are all consuming on his life. So if there's other filmmakers that I think James feels comfortable collaborating with, we could see the next films done by another filmmaker, which that really excites me, and I think that would be really, really interesting to see happen. So I hope that that's the case, and I hope that if they do, they find ways to do it. And he's very driven by AI doing not the artist work, but doing sort of the back end work of
To get these
of
projects out faster, right?
exactly, and more
Yeah.
affordable, and to do things in a sense. And I think being so passionate about the artistry of filmmaking, he's the perfect person to find a way to use AI in a production
Yeah.
standpoint. I think if anyone's going to crack that, it's going to be him, not
Yeah.
some big studio. It's going to be a filmmaker who's going to understand where and when to use that
How do we
tool.
give people more tools to create art, right?
Exactly. So that it's
Yeah.
it's more it's faster for them. They're not giving up so much of their life. Do you know what I mean? To do
Yeah.
things. There is something there that helps them as well as everyone get these movies out sooner so that they can be appreciated. So yeah, I would be down to see more Avatar, whether it's from James or another filmmaker. But I feel like it could be another filmmaker, which would be big. That'd be a big wave.
And
Well,
Steve, I'd even take other formats. I would take a streaming series in Pandora.
Ooh,
Uh,
an
no,
anime, dude.
anime,
No.
sure. No, I don't
no,
want The
let me
Adventures of
explain.
Loak on Disney
The
Plus.
Adventures of
No,
Loak. You're sure? Um,
no.
my no,
A teen dramedy.
my real thought with that was actually a Planet Earth style series on Pandora. I think would be really phenomenal. And Justin brought to my idea sphere with this idea that it would be narrated by Sigourney Weaver, and that just blew my mind. And it
Well,
needs to exist. I want to learn about the flora and fauna of Pandora,
I
and
went a little
and
bit
that would be
further
such a
too.
beautiful way to do it.
There's another layer here though, and I
Oh,
think it really does play
James,
into
if you're listening.
what yes, there's another layer to this whole idea, which I think would play into the experience side of it, and that is creating something at Epcot that is like an internal, like it's an indoor experience
Walk through.
where you walk through.
Yeah.
Kind of think of like Nate would know this, but Team Labs esque from Japan, where
Yeah.
they do like these sort of light museums and artistry. So you integrate something like that with actual physical like trees and elements from Pandora, and then you have like augmented reality glasses that allow you to see things and interact with them. It could be really huge, and I think that's a
Presented
huge
by
thing.
Meta AI. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
we can find all
The
the
thing could
brand
sell
deals.
itself. But
Yeah.
Darcy asked him on the red carpet.
Yeah.
We're huge fans of the Pandora's. The Pandora. What do they call it? Pandora? Just
Pandora. It's
Pandora?
Pandora.
Yeah.
Pandora. Yeah.
Okay. They were huge fans of Pandora at Disney
Animal
World.
Kingdom. Yeah.
What's next? And he said there's stuff in the works, and he can't talk about it. So, obviously we know that there's more park experience that's going to be coming to Disneyland
Mhm.
at some point, which I believe is going to focus more on the water side of things. So I'm interested to see how we get to experience uh, Pandora and just the Avatar universe, if you will, uh, in that vein, in that experience mentality. I think
Well, then,
that's
because
really
to the
where it's
point
going
of
to
this,
thrive.
to the point of this discussion,
Mhm.
that's what we're talking about. right?
Yeah.
The experience of
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
world. And so
Mhm.
if that's going to hit maybe better for a lot of people than these movies, we'll see.
Yeah.
Well, and
Yeah.
that's
I
and
don't
that's
think
why
so.
I'm
Yeah.
saying it can't be a Disney Plus series. You cannot have this because it cannot be something that you watch at home. It
No,
can't be.
they could do. I would love them to do a Star Wars Visions style
Mm.
anthology
The
series
biomes.
with like yeah. Did you ever watch Star Wars Visions?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
like
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
anime. You're going back to the anime.
Yeah,
Oh
the
yeah.
anime
Mhm.
Okay,
style
you
where
could
it's
do
like
that. That would be fine.
anthology stories. Like I would totally be all over that, and that would be amazing because he's done comics. He said if he doesn't do 4 and 5, he's going to write a book that's going to close out the thing that he wants to close out. And it's like, okay, you went from creating incredible cinematic experiences to saying, well, here's a book that's going to close everything out for you. It's like,
Well, the best cinematic experience, Justin, is in your mind. You know what I mean? Like no one can make a
that's
better
true. That's true.
experience than your mind.
That's
Yeah,
that's
I
really the
would,
next level. Is he's just gonna this gonna put like the Matrix,
Or
and it's just
the
gonna
the
happen.
tails,
Yeah. Oh,
the hair tail.
yeah,
You
you
just plug right
connect.
in.
that's
You
You get
plug
right.
your
right in.
own, right?
Yeah.
We see that you can
See
develop your
your
own in
loved
this
ones.
movie.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry
Yeah,
about grief.
they're dead.
Grief is
Just plug right
gone.
in. You're good to
Yeah,
see.
the
You're good
whole
to hang out.
the whole thing. Yeah, I know you joke about it. It's a really bizarre thing that we don't really get to dive into, but the whole transformation
Of
that
Spider.
Spider's going through,
Yeah.
which is just it's bizarre in itself, and I don't know. I don't even know where we were supposed to go with that. I guess that might have been that's something to be explored in future movies, but at the end of the day, it's bizarre in itself, right? Like I don't know how many people were really kind of like, oh, that's cool. It was like kind of like, huh? You know what I mean?
But see, I
Kind of
think
what?
Like
that's
there's a
the
lot of
thread.
squinting and like,
Oh.
That to me is the most logical next step for this franchise is
what do they
yeah,
call it? Co
Cohabitating.
exist
cohabitation.
cohabitating. Thank you.
Commingling? No,
Commingling.
Co-mingling,
but
cuddling.
Yeah.
this
We'll just call it cuddling.
that's cuddling. Wait,
Yeah.
what? Pooning.
Plug out.
Pooning.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, yeah.
It's no, but the idea that humanity isn't only the villains now. Like that and the fact that his DNA is being replicated or whatever, it makes sense. That would be where the story goes. And like again, it's there. I don't know where else you go. Like Avatar really was, I mean, has opportunities to explore, but it really was a film that could have just been one film. But now that we're in this world, where do you go with it? It has to be this continuing evolution of relationships. And again, I think comes back to the spirituality of nature, this
Mhm.
idea of connectedness, and
But
how do we
that to me is something that is so relevant and that I think so many people can get on board with. But the idea of what they did with Spider and how they were like, yeah, we're gonna start making him part of the night because it seems like it was a very special circumstance, really driven by Sigourney's younger
Kitty.
character. Sorry,
Kitty.
Kitty.
It's a R, but it's pronounced with a D. Yeah,
Kitty.
Kitty.
Yeah,
is it
okay.
actually?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
Kiri. I'm pretty sure, right?
Kiri.
Yeah, Kiri, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
Kitty. Yeah,
Kitty. Okay. Well,
yeah,
the way he said it.
yeah.
But her like her what she's tapping into is very much what you're talking about, and I'm intrigued by that. I'm intrigued by this sense of connecting with nature on a spiritual level that while everyone around seems to really understand it, she deeply feels it to a degree where she is changing the DNA of a human out of passion and out of desire of wanting to save them, right? So she's wielding a power, and I think she's going to be the character to follow and
She's
see
gonna
what
be the
happens next.
unobtainium of the next one.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Oh, that makes a
that
lot of
makes sense
sense.
actually.
yeah.
That
Yeah,
makes sense.
And
makes
I
sense.
also heard that, like, I don't know where I read this, and I hope it's not true, but like, there's a rumor going around that it's like they're going to Earth or something,
Yeah,
and
that's what I
like,
heard.
that's neat. But like, we just spent how many hours talking about how much we love the world of Pandora, and it's like we're gonna go to Earth. That's the last place I want to be, with these characters, right? So it's like if they did it in a way that it worked to showcase, all of it, sure, and maybe it's like a
Well, maybe
portion
we're
of the
gonna
movie
meet.
or one of the hours of the 4 hours that it's going to be or whatever. Like that's fine, but I don't know. I think I think there's more opportunities to stay
Well,
on
especially,
Pandora.
isn't it like 50 light years or something like that?
Oh
Or
yeah, it's
50?
gonna. They have to
A
like
whole movie
sleep,
would be
right? Yeah,
traveling, and then the
yeah,
next one after that would be
It's
yeah.
just,
Well,
it's them
it's.
on a ship. That's
I
it.
wonder if
the Blue Bassam.
we'll meet Parker. I think his name is Parker Selfridge, the CEO. He's played by
Oh,
Giovanni
yeah.
Ribisi, right? I
Giovanni
wonder if we'll
Well,
meet
Ribisi.
his
his dad
father,
has
who's
been
the CEO.
introduced. Now we have his
Yeah,
dad.
it's going to be Arnold Schwarzenegger. Me and Nate were
It's
joking
better
about
be.
this.
Dude,
This is Arnold
Arnold
Schwarzenegger's
loves
ability to get into
Avatar.
Avatar.
He
He
loves
does.
it. There
He
was
loves it
like
as a
some
movie
interview that came
experience.
out
Yeah.
of him being like, "I love Avatar. It's the best. I love Avatar so much." And it was like, I was like, I'm like, this
So
guy
cool.
loves Avatar,
Yeah.
and I get it. Like, of course he does. Like, he's he's the freaking Terminator. Of course he's gonna love Avatar. But no, I would that would be. I would, you know what? You could make all the crappy, cheesy dialogue for his character. I'd forgive it. I'd be okay with that one.
Yeah. I will say this too. And actually, since you brought up Arnold, that's one of the reasons I would say that I'm actually a little nervous of him being a producer on this. And it's because we've saw that with the Terminator movies, how quickly they lost their way, even when his name was a producer on them. And it was like, okay,
But
well, look,
you have to remember though too, like, and not to cut you off, but just that the idea behind it with that is they're giving him a producer credit because it's an original story. Like he's the one who came up with it, because he's probably not involved in it, but he's making money off of it to a
yeah,
certain degree. Do you know what I mean? Whereas I think based on how he's talked about this, like he's still going to be very integral because it's Lightstorm, right? Like Lightstorm's going to be the one that's going to produce this, and I think this is probably going to be the way he's able to maintain a control over the quality of what is being produced outside of him directing it, versus something like Terminator, which I don't know if he had the rights to the story, but I don't know if he had the rights to like the production side of things, right? So maybe that's the reason why things kind of got away, because he still gets credit, if I'm not mistaken, on Terminator. Like I'm pretty sure he's still accredited something for it, and he probably has little involvement to it, but maybe creatively he doesn't have full pull. Maybe on this he's gonna have full pull.
yeah.
Pull
I
his
love
hair.
that.
Pull his hair. Yeah.
Fully pull his.
I think we can trust James for this one. I think so. I think so. I think so.
Well, guys, I'm just looking at the clock here, and I
Yep.
think that this might be a natural place for us to take a pause, or wrap this sucker up. So maybe we should screen it or skip it. Skip it.
Yep.
Avatar, Fire and Ash. Screen it or skip it.
Ooh, Nate, you go first.
Yeah, I think for my least favorite Avatar movie, I'm still gonna say screen it. I would
Mhm.
say, see that go to your local theater and enjoy this experience. I do think that everything we're talking about is still absolutely worth watching on the biggest screen possible. If you can find it without the frame rate switching or the high frame rate, if you can find it at just a lower frame rate, I think you'll have a slightly better experience personally. But other than that, yeah, definitely, I think screen it. I would not skip this
Yeah.
movie in the theater, even if I listened to all of this and hadn't seen the movie yet and got spoiled the crap about all this stuff. I would still I would still recommend going to see it. Like it's still worth seeing, and especially the sound and the music and the world is worth being immersed in, and it's worth going on this experience. So I would say screen it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I was saying, it's the coin with two sides. You got the spectacle, and it's all there. It's a theatrical experience like no other, and it's world building at its best. And it's done by James Cameron. He just, again, his technical ability is incredible, and his attention to the detail of what he's trying to build is unreal. But the other half of that coin is the story, and in a world that is so rich and so well developed, the writing, in my opinion, just doesn't rise to the level of those visuals. And I think that's something to be aware of when you're going into this. But I think the biggest thing about this film is that this film and then the entire series. It's a series that's defined on how it looks and sounds and feels on the big screen, and not the strength of its story. And I think that all feels intentional. I think James Cameron knows exactly the kind of movie he's making, and he seems completely comfortable with Avatar being remembered for its visual experience, for its technical achievements, for the its ability of what it's been able to do, and as an experiential landmark in the film going experience rather than a narrative movie. So, whether you like whether you think that influences your idea of what you appreciate from a movie, it's really up to you. But I would say, because of the theatrical experience, much like Nate, I would screen it. I would definitely screen it, because I do think it is a movie that needs to be seen, and in a theater. I would say see it at the best possible thing with all the frame rates so you can have your own opinion. But to Nate's point, if you do get motion sickness and you don't like 3D as much, there are a variety of other formats to see it in that are less jarring, and less of a strain, because he's talked about how they tried to perfect the strain from the 3D and it still didn't work for some people because it's a lot. It's a lot. They're sitting for like 3.5 hours. So I appreciate, again, the attention to wanting to make the experience great for the audience on the level of, hopefully no, it's not as extraneous on the eyes, but it still was. But yeah, screen it, see it in any format you want, and enjoy it, because it could be, like you're saying, Steve, it could be the last one. So
That yeah, I hear you. I've decided that I'm going to pivot entirely and say no, just wait and watch it on your phone like it was meant to be. Just I mean,
Watch it on the toilet,
yes.
yeah, yeah,
Sit there
yeah.
on the subway as you're sitting, headphones in
On
and
loud,
just
no, on loud. Don't
No,
don't
yeah,
watch it
yeah.
with
loud.
headphones. Yeah.
Fully loud. Yeah.
Just crank that up.
Blast it.
No, I truly believe that these movies are, I can't say automatically, but he has shown so consistently they're the cinematic experience that we need.
Mm.
Especially in the way theaters right now are trying to stay alive. I think we need movies like this to remind people not just about seeing it on the big screen or seeing it with others, but just how immersive it can truly be. An experience you can't get
Mhm.
anywhere else. You just
Mhm.
can't, like, yes, there's the high frame rate, there's the 3D, all that stuff, but my gosh, it's gorgeous. And yeah, there's bumpy storytelling in parts, but ultimately there are going to be moments where you just don't care because, like you said, there's going to be that little creature in the back and you're like, what is that thing? And by the way, the killer squids in this movie are hilarious. I'm like, these things are amazing. I was like, oh, okay, they're not messing around.
They were dope.
But like, I really think that this is something that's it's just not even debatable. If you want to experience, we've said about 100 times in this podcast.
Mhm.
And if you can't, I mean, it's expensive, go to the movies, but that's what these things are. They are meticulously crafted to be cinematic experiences. And I'm like, if you got to see it in theater if you haven't so far.
Mhm. Yeah,
Agreed.
Yeah.
agreed.
Well, this has been fun, guys, but sell your wares. Tell us about GeekCentric. How can people follow you?
Yes, well, we are GeekCentric. We're YouTubers and podcasters, primarily podcasters. We do movie reviews, TV reviews, we do interviews. You can find all of our stuff on our on sorry, you can find our podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find our YouTube channel at youtube.com/geekcentric, where we have all of our interviews there, the video portions of our stuff that we've been fortunate enough, all the different people that we've been able to sit down with, like James Cameron, like Stephen Lang, and even from Way of Water, all the kids. So there's a lot of Avatar stuff there, a lot of other interviews as well. You can follow us on our social, on Instagram at We Are Geekcentric. You can follow us on Twitter at GeekCentricYT, and you can follow us on TikTok as well, also at We Are Geekcentric. Do you want to plug Eats there, Nate?
Oh, I mean, yeah, like if you like to eat, so do we, and we are geeks, and we are eat-centric as well. I don't know why I was like rhyming all over there, green eggs and ham going on. Which if we ever get a chance
I was
to
going to say that would track very
green,
well if
green eggs and
you.
Yeah,
ham for an
for us,
eat-centric
yeah, for
review
sure.
would be
Yeah, yeah.
amazing. Dr. Seuss, if you're listening. But no, we are eat-centric is a new thing that we started in 2025 and are continuing on. So we like to feature just some of the most delicious eats and kind of put our own geeky spin on things and focus on different foods that fall within, from the worlds we love. We are looking forward to, at this time of this recording, looking forward to reviewing some foods at Disney World coming up very soon. And we were talking about the Mangkwan clan, and there's a Mangkwan moose, Steve, at Animal Kingdom, and I'm so excited to try. It looks gorgeous. Look up pictures of this thing. It looks like it's from the world. Absolutely delicious. And so I'm very excited to check out the Mangkwan moose at Disney's Animal Kingdom while I'm exploring the world of Pandora and remembering all this wonderful conversation that we got to have with you.
I genuinely thought, because we've talked about the creatures, that you meant a Mangwan moose.
Moose!
I was like,
The antlers!
The antlers. I hear they're kind of gamey.
Yeah, no. I'm a chocolate moose. Yeah, that would be amazing, though. Listen, I'd try moose. We'll see.
See, I love that you guys have expanded into this area and it works with your name. Like, if we did that, it would just be Eat Fish. And then it wouldn't.
You get a huge group of folks.
All the
out
different
there.
kinds of fish you could eat. Cool. You could do sushi. You could do a whole bunch
Very
of stuff, dude.
seafood focused.
Yeah,
Very
for sure.
seafood.
Entire
I like it.
podcast based
I like
on
it.
that, but we don't have that. We don't have it.
I love that.
But you can follow us. If you found us, you found us and you're listening to this conversation. You're hearing us wherever podcasts are available or on YouTube as well. Follow Screenfish for the latest conversations with industry professionals about their latest projects and fun conversations like this in a relaxed atmosphere. You can also find us at screenfish.net, which again is a pure coincidence that .net would go with that fish theme. That was just because .com was gone, but screenfish.net is a thing.
It makes sense.
And
catch
you
fish.
can follow us at the Instawebs, Instagram at Screenfish online as well, and on the Tickety Talks, as the kids say. But
Is that how they say it, Steve? They
that
say
is.
tickety talk.
Tickety talks.
Hey there, young man. Have you seen my latest tickety
You
talk?
on that tickety talk, bro?
It's like Grandpa Simpson actually talking about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Put up my new review. We ate fish.
Which was the style at the time.
Oh man.
That's awesome.
But yes, follow us. And I don't know if you can know this, but you can follow 2 different podcasts. So make sure you follow GeekCentric and follow us. And 3, because you've got EatCentric as well.
Yeah. Yeah. You can check that out on Instagram at We Are EatCentric if that wasn't clear as before.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think you dropped that.
I don't know if I did.
I don't think
know
you
if I
did, actually.
No.
Yeah,
I got
yeah,
hung up on
Dropped
talking
the
about
name
moose.
and left it.
Steve was talking about eating fish, and now here we are.
Threw everything off.
Yeah.
Anyway. Guys, I appreciate it. This has been so much fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us again. We look forward to the next time, and we'll
Yes.
charge you a little less next time. Promise.
Thank you.
We'll give you a discount.
Yeah,
Give you a
yeah.
discount.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Thank you. That means a lot.
He's not paying us, please. Don't think that he's actually paying us. Just for clarity.
Just for clarity.
Yeah.
Oh man, this has been great. So thank you again, and for you at home, we started the conversation. This was Screenfish. And